Hey everyone, before we start our episode, let us thank to our sponsor, the Sports Lawyer Masterclass. Sports Lawyer Masterclass is a platform where you go and you can learn about the sports law, whether it's all about the FIFA regulation, how the contracts needs to be drafted, what are the rules and regulations that you have to be know about it. If you really want to curious about, I will put the link down below where you can go and check that out. Hello everyone, welcome to the Sports Law Search Podcast. My name is Tushar Katheria. I'll be the host for today's episode. In this episode, we have our guest, Ms. Stephanie Weissenburger. She's an attorney and working right now at the Pardalis Nohavichka in their New York office. She completed her graduation from the University of South Carolina, where she completed her B.Sc from Sports and Entertainment Management. Further, she went to the New York Law School, where she completed her JD in law. And right now, she is also handling the creative roles in the Conduct Detrimental, where she appeared for the Conduct Detrimental Podcast with Dan Less and Dan Wallach, where she put her views on the legal matters which are happening right now around the globe. So, without us wasting any time, let's head on to our podcast in 3, 2, 1. So, welcome, Stephanie. Welcome to the Sports Law Stage Podcast. So, how are you right now?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so let's start our podcast. So the first question would be, how was the journey started from from school to the University of South Carolina, where you pursued and completed your bachelor's in sports and entertainment management? How's that started? So please go ahead.
Yeah, so growing up, I always was interested in sports, like so many other people, I'm sure. I played lacrosse, big lacrosse player from Maryland.
Yeah.
And so when I was looking for colleges to go to, I was primarily looking at what schools had sports related programs so that I could
Mm-hmm.
get a degree closely related to that, as well as, somewhere that was going to give me the opportunities to learn and grow and potentially engage in fulfilling internships and other things like that. So I ultimately chose University of South Carolina. They have a great sport and entertainment management program there. And while I was there, I actually had the opportunity to work for the Masters golf tournament for a few years through a partnership that the school has. I also worked for the Gamecock athletics marketing team when I was there. And then just throughout my schooling there, I kind of decided, I want to keep learning. I want to keep growing. And, I figured, okay, maybe I'll figure if I go to law school, that'll obviously be a key to open up new doors. And so I
Mm-hmm.
originally thought that I wanted to become a sports agent because I took a sports ethics class when I was in South Carolina and I loved it. And I was very into the debate and the negotiation side of things. And so I thought, hey, let me go to law school and I'm going to become a sports agent. But, things then happen and you see here when you're talking to other people who are already in the industry that it's a hard one to break into. And so I ultimately knew, though, that by the time I got to law school, I wanted to, obviously be connected with a lot of other sports professionals, and New York was definitely the place to be. But I would say that South Carolina definitely gave me the stepping stones. I was able to have multiple internships over the summer with, the Washington Capitals hockey team and Monumental Sports and Entertainment, which is obviously the owner of the Caps and the Mystics and the Wizards. And so I was fortunate, to have a great mentor when I was in college, and we've stayed connected now. And so one thing that I'm very thankful for is just surrounding myself with people who are supportive and willing to invest in your growth and willing to help you lead, meet new other people and introduce you to new people, because you can never stop learning from people.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that I've definitely noticed is every single day I feel like I'm learning something new, whether it's something big or small. But that's kind of the key I've seen, is just never stop learning, because there's always going to be something that, you don't know yet. And what you don't know can be one of the most helpful things that you'll ever learn.
Yeah. So the thing, curiosity of knowledge is something that, especially for the lawyers, they have to be read something every day. Like I started reading everything that right now. What I do in the morning, I just take one of the books which is related to the sports or any articles. So I read that and do the review thing. That's I started from I think 1.5 year, and that's why I thinking learning is one of the most essential thing if you really want to work in the sports industry, especially in the sports legal industry. Right now you are working, even I started my own practice. So yeah, so that's why. And how was the transition uh, from the California, South Carolina to the New York Law School? How that happened? Because you just shifted your career from the you were doing this bachelor degree, and then you are going to law school. It's a really big thing, especially for those students who choose something really different career, and then you transition to that law school. How that happened?
Yeah, exactly. So when I was looking for law schools then, I knew that I wanted to be where sports were. So that was in my
Mm-hmm.
head at least, New York or California. And California, while it's nice, it's a little bit far from,
Yeah.
my family being on the East Coast. And I had always had a desire to go to New York. My dad's originally from there. And so I was looking at law schools primarily in the New York and the DC area. And I visited New York Law School when I was a senior in college, and I
Mm-hmm.
loved it. I thought that, it was a great opportunity, a smaller school where I wouldn't just be a number, and they had the Sports Law Society and all types of
Mm-hmm.
other extracurriculars. And so I actually graduated from the University of South Carolina a semester early. So I
Oh.
had kind of a semester, the spring semester before going to law school, where I worked for the Baltimore Orioles just to, continue learning and getting more work experience in the sports field. And so by the time I was ready to move to New York for law school, I was very, very excited, but also nervous because obviously law school is a big task. 3 years. And it's what I found, at least my first year, was they teach you an entirely different way of learning.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just a clear black and white answer, but you have to look
Mm-hmm.
at all of the facts, and then you have to look at all of the law that's related to those facts and kind of make your own conclusions and arguments. But you also have to be open to seeing other sides and other points of view. And so I think ultimately law school has helped me in a variety of ways, just in terms of communicating with people and understanding people, because it really forces you to think in a completely different way, where I feel like I am a better listener because of it, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
constantly not trying to miss any detail, because every little thing that you might miss could completely change the outcome of something. And so it's definitely was a learning curve for sure. Law school, it was difficult. I'll
Yeah.
be the first one to admit it. I'm sure and everyone who
Yeah.
will be listening will agree with that. But ultimately, after the first year, you kind of get the hang of things. But
Mm-hmm.
it was a learning curve, and it was difficult. But I am happy that I pushed through and didn't give up,
Mm-hmm.
because so many people do. And everything always does get a little bit easier if you set your
Mm-hmm.
mind to it. And so I found that, just shutting out some of my friends, or just not being able to do certain things on the weekends, was a sacrifice, obviously, that first
Mm-hmm.
year, but it ultimately paid off in the end, because I was able to, catch up on things and really understand what I was learning and why I
Mm-hmm.
was going to be learning it, which then helped me proceed through my second and third years. And so law school is tough, for sure, but it's
I
always worth
can, yeah. So I can 100% relate to you because law school is a really big thing. So what in India, happened? We having a 5 year of law school course. So we having
it.
an
Wow.
integrated course. Yeah. So it's a very long journey. So I spent a whole 5 year in the law school, and it's bit tough for the first 2 years for me because it's really difficult for it because the transition was not that really great for me, and because for just I just passed out from my school and then I directly go to the law school. It's a really big thing for me, and yeah, so the transition is something which is really important for. It's a very tough task for anyone who don't have such kind of knowledge. They don't done any kind of graduate degree and they directly go to the law school. And yeah, it's a challenge, but you have to get such kind of experience because then you get to know what are the things that you have to work on it, what are the skill that you have to develop if you want to become a lawyer. And that's why the law school teach you how you have to deal with it, how the in the every day there's a something new task will come up in even on the weekends also you get emergency cases, so you have to be prepared for it. And yeah, you have
Exactly.
to, and that's where law school prepare you in such a way that you have to be available for your client. And that's why I think it's tough, but the fruits that you get at the end of the day, it's very fruit for us. So yeah, I can totally
Yeah,
relate with it,
exactly.
how the law school is really tough. It's not for everyone, it's not everyone's piece of cake. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to really want it. That's for sure.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next question. So how did your prior internship and voluntary experiences help you to stand out to work in the sports industry? Because you had some really good voluntary experience and internships that you have done during law school or even in your graduate school. So how that happened?
Yeah, so I actually, when I came back from my sophomore year, I believe it was, of college, I
Mm-hmm.
worked at a golf country club just near my house. And one of the members there, actually, I became very good friends with him. And he actually turned into kind of one of my mentors. He has a foundation called the Perfect Game Foundation, and it's a nonprofit. And he tries and just connects young professionals and college students who want to work in the sports industry with some of his connections, because he obviously realizes, it's a tough field to break into and it's all
Mm-hmm.
about relationships a lot of the time. And so I was lucky enough to, become a part of that foundation. And through him, I was able to meet several other sports professionals. And so I was lucky enough to then work for the Washington Capitals. When I was home for winter breaks, I would work some of the games. And although it was just, checking tickets and things like that, I believe that it definitely helped me get an inside glimpse of what working in the sports industry is like, because it's not always, you always hear about the pretty aspects of it, but it's like I
Yeah.
was working when I was home for winter break and I was supposed to be on vacation per se. I was
Mm-hmm.
at the, Verizon Center. It's now called Capital One Arena, but and from 5 p.m. until 11 p.m. on a weeknight when I was supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
on vacation, I was working these Capitals games, just, getting a feel for things. And then that ended up leading to the next summer getting an internship with Monumental Sports and Entertainment in their corporate partnerships department, which was really my first, real glimpse at what the front office looks like in terms of
Mm-hmm.
sponsorship deals and entering into partnerships and how a business venture of this size runs. And so
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. And that ended up then leading to other things, So then I worked for the Baltimore Orioles as a business development associate right before I started law
Mm-hmm.
school. And just from keeping up my relationship with my mentor, and then also getting introduced to new people as well who have become mentors to me, that really helped me then find my way in New York once I was in law school. And so I worked for an agency called DMA United my first year of law school, and I was a legal and business development intern there. And so I was able to pitch new clients partnerships, but I also then analyzed, applicable regulatory frameworks and drafted representation contracts. And that was really my first real, I think, legal related internship was that one. And I figured, okay, I really, really like contracts. And that was always my favorite subject as well in law school. My first year, I loved contracts. And so that's kind of how I got started in, I guess you would say, like the sports related transactional work, contracts, licensing deals, and things of that nature. But then also, while I was in law school, I was part of the mediation clinic. And so that really helped me get real world experience when it comes to mediation and, I guess, negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
So we conducted actual mediations with real clients in New York small claims court. And so obviously, these people weren't looking for millions of dollars, but they were looking for smaller amounts. But it was really helpful in terms of, again, just being able to listen and understand to different sides and really try and bring sides together to come to a reasonable resolution, which I feel like is a lot of what lawyering is just, understanding what the other side is saying and bringing that to your client, and then explaining that how that's going to apply to their potential case against that person and things of that nature. And then through that, then I also ended up working for actually a personal injury firm for a few months there. And I realized, okay, while this is great lawyering experience in a different field, I definitely don't want to be a personal injury lawyer, but you got to try certain things because otherwise you don't know what you really like. And so I was always just coming back to the contracts related side of things. And so then ultimately, I ended up meeting Dan Lust my last year of law school, my third year. I'm sure he's been on your show before, I believe, right? Dan Sports Law Lust on Twitter. He's big presence. And so that was kind of just through my own, I guess, initiative and networking, where when COVID hit, everything kind of totally shut down. And so I was thinking, I wasn't able to get an internship that summer because of COVID. And so, when you're about to enter your third year of law school, I obviously was freaking out because I was thinking, oh no, I'm going to be graduating next year, but I don't even have an internship this summer. Like, what am I supposed to do? And so I decided then to start my own sports law blog, just writing about various topics, whether it was Le'Veon Bell's contract structure, because that was a big topic with the New York Jets then, or, just the emerging technology and how that's going to apply in the legal industries. And so I started that sports law blog, and then I connected with Dan over Twitter. Actually, Twitter has been a very helpful tool, surprisingly, in terms of connecting with people. And so we got talking. He then ended up being a speaker for the Sports Law Society in law school. And then we just stayed in touch, and he had just then started a new position at Geragos Geragos. And so because of the relationship that I built with him, because I was clearly showing my passion for working in the sports industry, but also, putting in the work on my own in my free time to show that I really was dedicated, he thought of me then when they were looking for interns. And so I interviewed with Geragos Geragos, ultimately got hired as a law clerk there. And so I was able then to really get an inside glimpse of how a law firm runs. I was given a lot of responsibility, and I was able to learn a ton from Dan as well. He has become one of my greatest mentors now, for sure. And that was just really interesting for me because, you're in law school and you read all these cases, but you never really, I guess, see them from start to finish in the real world. You just read them in textbooks. And so that was really my first real feeling where I said, okay, I think I did choose the right profession. This is super interesting. It's obviously long hours, even as a law clerk, but I was still trying to consistently learn more and more and more so that once I graduated, I would put myself in the best position that I could. And so then ultimately, I guess I did a decent job as a law clerk there because they allowed me to, come back after taking the bar. And so I worked there for a few months after that, got even more experience, and then decided I wanted to head more towards the intellectual property sector of things. And so now I'm kind of where I'm at now, but the bar, I guess we could discuss that a little bit too. The bar was a lot, but I will say, and I say this to everyone, my roommate is actually studying for the bar right now too, but I say it to everyone when they're, thinking, oh, I have to get rid of my summer, I'm studying constantly. All I ever say is, you don't get it until you pass. It is literally the best moment of your entire life. And I still wholeheartedly say that to this day. There is no better feeling than reading that letter and finding out that you passed and just knowing that all your hard work really did pay off.
Yeah, and I think last year only I got in touch with you, and you just passed the New York bar exam, and and you talk about the Dallas, and he was our first guest for this podcast, and we were very fortunate that he take his time out and I think at the very early morning he recorded podcast with us, and yeah, with his blessing that we started our first episode, and now we are heading to our 10th episode of podcast. It's the journey is something which I never thought that we will ever complete a 10 episode for the Sports Sausage podcast. But yeah, apart from that, you talk about the bar exam. So how was the preparation was going on for the New York bar exam? Because in India, they are for Indian lawyers who want to practice in the United States of America. They are the four states that they can go and qualify as an attorney. One of them is state of New York, Washington, Wisconsin, and California. Only these four states which the foreign lawyers can sit for the bar exam and they qualify as attorney. How was your experience, and how did you prepare for that exam? So, if anyone want to apply to for the New York bar exam, how he need to prepare for it, he or she. So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. So the bar exam, at least in New York, it's part of the Uniform Bar Examination, so the
Mhm.
UBE. So if you pass it in one state, your score may be able to qualify to then be transferred to some of the other states that are part of the UBE. And so preparing for the bar exam, I used Themis, which is just a bar prep course. There's a few that are, highly used, I guess, by most people, and Themis is one of those. And so I used Themis. I did about an 8 to 10-ish week program, a schedule, studying every single day. They had videos that you would then watch, and then you would have to, test your knowledge by multiple choice questions or essay questions. And it was definitely a grueling summer, to say the least. You don't want to get sidetracked too much because there's so much information that you have to know. It was definitely the hardest test I've ever taken, for sure. Um, but you can definitely do it. It's a doable test. It's obviously curved a little bit against your peers as well as the difficulty of the questions. And so I definitely would recommend, doing one of the long-term programs that Themis may have, or Barbary is another one, that because it just helps you stay on track, and you need to stay on track when you're studying, just because there is, like I said, so much information, so many topics. And the annoying part for me was, at least in terms of the essay questions, so you do 6 essays in addition to then 200 multiple choice, and then you have 2 other multi-state performance tests, they call them, the MPTs. And so the essays, though, there were, I want to say, about 15 or so topics that you could be tested on, but you didn't know what you were going to be tested on until the test day. And so while you were only ultimately tested on 6 different topics, you still had to study for everything else because you didn't know what they were going to test you on. And so that was a little bit of the difficult part, was just trying to balance, okay, what do I think they're going to test me on based on the past exams and things like that. But as long as you focus, it's a very doable test. And if you focus, I've come to find that focusing and hard work, it always ends up paying off, no matter how long it takes. You might fall down, but at the end, you'll always come out on top, as long as you keep moving and you don't give up on what you're doing, because that's the only way you can fail, in my opinion, is if you just completely give up. But otherwise, got to keep moving. And ultimately, I did keep studying, and I, a few months later, found out that I passed, and it was a great, great feeling, just knowing that your hard work pays off.
Yeah, even for me, because in India we also have to pass the bar exam. We have all India bar examination. So once you pass that exam, you in all over India you can start your own practice. So um, it's not that tough exam. If I have to be very honest with you, it's very easy exam. And the Bar Council of India, who run this kind of exam, they have this they allow the student to carry their own study materials and the books and the BRX that they can refer for them, because we having a multiple choice question. So
Right.
I think for 3 hours of exams we have, and 100 question we have to attempt. So they have a minimum criteria you have to meet, and then tada, you pass the bar exam if you meet the minimum criteria by the Bar Council of India. So yeah, in India it's work like that. So yeah, I'm also what I'm thinking, that I also need to expand my practice in the global region. So what I'm targeting, that I also have to qualify either in the US or in the UK. So in the next 4 years I will be preparing for the solicitor qualification exam for the UK, because I really want to establish my own firm right there. So that's what I'm targeted right now. So yeah, it's good to know that how you crack that New York bar exam, which is, I think, one of the toughest exam in the US right
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
because
yeah.
California exam is one of the is the most toughest bar exam in the US.
Hmm. Yeah,
Same
no,
say,
I
say
think you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah, in same in India there's a one Bombay solicitor exam. It is also one of the most toughest exam, and only and the lawyers who want to become a solicitor in India, they have to practice under that solicitor in the Mumbai. So in the Mumbai, it's earlier called the Bombay. So the act known as Bombay solicitor examination, it happened like that. So yeah, that so
Yeah,
yeah,
very
let's
interesting.
move. Yeah, so let's move on to the next question. So you work in the Geragos, and now you ended up at the Pardalis Nohavichka. So how that happened, and right now, what are the matters that you are looking forward? Just don't disclose anything. So yeah, just overall, let us know about it.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny how I ended up here. It kind of goes back to what I was saying about how if you put in the work on the side in terms of the extracurriculars and really just show your passion for something, it does end up working out. So I had written an article for Conduct Detrimental, the sports law
Yeah.
podcast and website that I'm involved in, about Giannis, the Milwaukee Bucks player. And so I just written something about intellectual property rights and how he was, obviously protecting his brand by going after infringers and things like that. And so my boss now, one of the partners at Pardalis Nohavichka, added me on LinkedIn. And so I responded and I immediately recognized
Mhm.
his name. And so I reached out and I said, hey, great to connect. Ironically, I wrote this article about one of your
Mhm.
filings. Like, let me know what you think. And he ended up saying, that's exactly, I saw it. And that's why
Mhm.
I reached out to you. And so we then got talking and I grabbed coffee with him. And, the timing just was right. He was looking for a new associate to come in, and I figured, this is an opportunity that I don't think I want to pass up, because it was more in the
Mhm.
realm of sports intellectual property, which is what I
Mhm.
ultimately, was most interested in. And Geragos unfortunately didn't have intellectual property practice there. And
Mhm.
so, I thought about it and I said, you might regret it if you don't go here and just at least see what it's about. And so
Mhm.
I decided, all right, I'm going to follow my gut here and I'm going to move on and go towards the intellectual property side of things. And so now I'm primarily working on a lot of intellectual property, whether it's filing trademarks with the
Mhm.
USPTO, or also I've been doing some with the European Union IP office for various clients, whether it's athletes, entertainers, entrepreneurs, small business owners. And then I also do a lot of licensing agreements that then obviously license your intellectual property rights out to other people, and then trademark clearance searches that you obviously
Mhm.
have to do before you file those trademarks. But then also I've been, involved in a lot of business agreements, whether that's commercial contracts, so related to technology, or joint ventures and partnership agreements, or operating agreements, share transfer agreements. And so I'm now more on the transactional side of things for the most part. I still do practice a little bit in terms of litigation cases, but in the
Mhm.
intellectual property realm, like trademarks or copyrights. But I'm liking the transactional side of things for sure, because I think at least what I'm doing in terms of the intellectual property and the business side of things, you can really help small businesses or new startups grow
Mhm.
their business by, taking advantage of the legal system, i.e. intellectual property rights. And so I'm
Mhm.
trying to, think of various ways where these brands can really monetize themselves and, become bigger than what they
Mhm.
are now, and really grow their business as a whole by utilizing the tools that the legal system gives us to use. And so I've, been able to work with various prominent athletes, which has been a lot of fun, just getting
Mhm.
involved in really, seeing when I look back a few years ago, thinking, oh, that would be a dream to do trademarks for an athlete or something like that.
Yeah.
And then to be able to really, be living in it, where I'm filing a trademark for Giannis, arguably, the best basketball player in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like my name on that trademark application is just a feeling that's, indescribable, because again, it's when your hard work pays off, you really do get to see the end product. And obviously there's a lot more work to do, and there's a lot more that I want to get involved in and just grow my practice. But it's been a lot of fun for sure. And I think I definitely made the right decision in terms of moving over to this side, so that way I can really start honing in on intellectual property as my main practice, as opposed to, doing various things. But I think it's important too to really figure out what you like and go
Mm-hmm.
all in on that, because that's only going to benefit you and your clients later if you become an expert on it.
Yeah. So you just reminded my old time that when I joined the law firm in 2018. So at that time, I was very inclined to pursue my career in intellectual property law. So I joined that kind of law firm, which gave me that opportunity to work in that. But you see, in India, there's already so many players right now who are already working in that sector right now. So that's why I shifted to the sports industry, which is something I think in the end of the 2019, I decided let's give a shot, let's do some of the courses, and I really like that. And that way, in the I think around 1.5 year, I just doing the pro bono thing, whether it's reviewing any article, designing the courses for I right now working with the Sportiva Law Education for there, that I help them to create their course, how it needs to be implemented. And I think that's way that you generate such kind of interest, and that's only leads to that at how you need to implement that kind of a skill if you're working in the law firm. And that's why I take this risk that let's start my own law firm. Let's start it right now in my hometown. So that's why I started my
Yeah.
own law practice. Specifically, I will be concentrating in the sports industry, because the area that where I'm living in Kanpur and Lucknow, because right here there are so it's an emerging market right now. India is one of the most emerging market, and this is the opportunity that I can
Yeah,
take it right
definitely.
now. And yeah, because if you want to become the specialist lawyer in that sector, you have to be working at early as possible. And that's why I think let's start with it right now. This is the best time that if this, because I what I learned thinking let's take a 10 years of experience and then start a law firm, but I think that will be very too late for me. So that's why I started, let's go for it right now. I know it's gonna take it at least 5 years, but I know that at the end of the 5 years, I know that I already make my own brand name with my own law firm. And I think the
Exactly.
sports law stage is something which I doing as such a pro bono thing, because I need to help the students and the people who really want to work in the sports industry, whether it's a lawyer, agent, academicians. That's why I'm doing this such kind of podcast. And that's why such kind of networking opportunity, it really helped me out to talk to people like you, like Dan Luss, and everyone who are working overseas. Even Jesse Angel Hart, she is one of the first female lawyers who come on board for the podcast. So yeah, you are the second one and the 10th episode for a podcast. So cheers. Yeah.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah. So yeah, then you ended up at the Pardalis Nohavichka, and now you are working in this intellectual property department, and now you are filing the trademark and other intellectual property. So how is the experience right now till now? Because I think you just joined in the this year only that you joined it in Pardalis and Nohavicka. So till now, how is the experience till now?
Yeah, I mean, the experience has been great. I've been given a lot of responsibility and opportunities to really, learn new areas of the law. Obviously, I took intellectual property related courses in law
Mm-hmm.
school, but like I said, my old firm didn't do any intellectual property work. And so it was definitely a little bit of a learning curve in terms of, completely changing what I had been doing to
Mm-hmm.
what I'm doing now. And I'm still doing some of the same things. And obviously, the way of thinking is similar, because everything in the law, you always have to, anticipate things. But now I would say it's a lot of fun. I feel like diving deeper into things, or sometimes I find myself in like a research rabbit hole, because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
when you actually enjoy doing something and you're interested in a topic, you're more inclined to really understand and really dive deep and get all of the details that you want and just continue learning. And so obviously with, the NFTs and the metaverse
Yeah.
and Web3 and everything, that's going to have a lot of new, I guess it's an emerging development,
Yeah.
especially in terms of intellectual property rights, because it's not regulated right now. And so that's been fun to see how things are going to turn out in terms of, IP rights in that space. And I'm looking forward to, continuing to learn about those things, reading up on various cases so that if I'm approached by a client or something in a related case, then we can,
Mm-hmm.
advise them accordingly. But so far, it's been great, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
regret it at all. I think that it just goes to show that you should jump at every opportunity that presents itself,
Mm-hmm.
because, you never know what can happen. And I've really been able to grow as a lawyer, but also as a person. And I'm very, very happy with where I'm at now. And so I feel like, it was a great opportunity for me to take, and I took it. And I've really been diving deep into this area of law.
Mm-hmm.
And, if I hadn't went with my gut and taken the opportunity, then, I wouldn't have been able to have the experiences that I've been able to have now. And so I think jumping at every opportunity, no matter what it is one of the
Mm-hmm.
biggest things. And that kind of just also goes back to, like, in college, most of my internships were unpaid, but, even though they're
Mm-hmm.
unpaid, who cares? The wealth that you're going to acquire is really the things that you're going to learn. That's the wealth that is then going to push you towards real wealth in the future. And I think that the biggest thing that people in this industry, at least, sometimes fail to realize is everyone, of course, wants to get paid if they're doing work,
Yeah.
but the sports industry is a hard one to get into. And, if you're just looking for a paid opportunity, you're going to miss out on a lot. And so I would say, jump at every single opportunity that remotely interests you, because whether you like it or not, you're at least going to
Mm-hmm.
learn something more about yourself, and it's going to help guide you in the future as to which direction you want to go. And so I think that's another big thing that really helped me along the way, was just taking that opportunity and really running with it and going full-fledged into it and seeing what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. You grab every opportunity that you come across, and you uh, grab with both hands, and that's why you are working in the state of New York with the new law firms, and you just settle it down right there. And yeah, and you talk about the NFTs and a lot of things that are happening right now, because you see Web3, blockchain technology, and other advancement in technology which are happening right now. You cannot bar it, it's an inevitable. So that's why we have to closely look into it, and how the policy needs to be work in that. And that's why in NFT, what I think, because a lot of the sports athletes are investing in the non-fungible tokens. David Beckham, who he already invested so much money in such kind of advanced technological things which are happening right now, because you see athletes do want to monetize their through their own personal capacity. So what happened in sport, they are personal capacity and the club capacity, or the organizational capacity. So yeah, they want to monetize in such a way so that they can also earn something in returns. Because usually what happened, the events like the team photograph and they signing such kind of merchandise, what happened, they get a very less amount, because in the contract it's a package deal that you getting it. So that's why in other terms they needs to earn something more from their side business, or through launching their own merchandise. That's why they are opening so many businesses. If you see LeBron James, one of the most successful businessmen, Michael Jordan, I can say, because I already wrote a one paper on this valuation, how the players valuation has to be done. So I refer that, I will send it to you, that how I wrote that paper, so you can review it and
Yeah,
let me know how's it.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's,
definitely send it.
yeah, so that's why I think NFTs are something which are a really big thing, and in India also, because esport is also booming market. This one company, loco.com, it's one of the streaming platform. So they already launched their NFTs for the esports athlete. So that's because in India what happened, the blockchain technology, NFTs, the government charging 30% of tax from this advancement of technology which are happening right now. So we have to see how this is going to be happening in the next 5 years, how whether there would be some levy on taxes or not, how it's going to be drafted, what are the policy which will come up in India. So let's see, hope for the best. Yeah. So let's
Exactly.
move. Yeah. So let's move on to the next question. You also hold some of the creative roles in the content detrimental, and how that skill really help you out uh, in the sports legal industry. So go ahead.
Yeah, so when I worked with Dan at Geragos as a law clerk, obviously I had listened to the podcast that he does with Dan Wallach fairly often, and he, asked if I wanted to join the team, and they're trying to grow it, obviously. And so a few of us joined the team, and we were really just trying to figure out how we can broaden our audience and how
Mm-hmm.
we can, come up with new opportunities for law students. Because I think one thing that everyone recognizes, especially both of the Dans, is that, when they were in law school or when they were
Mm-hmm.
younger attorneys, this was something they only dreamed of also. And so I feel like our podcast and the website and everything has really, helped law students realize their potential in terms of
Mm-hmm.
writing articles. And so that was one of the big things that we tried to focus on when we created the website last summer. I think it's coming on about a year since it launched,
Yeah.
and we've now had over 500 articles written by various law students and attorneys alike. And that was just
Including me.
one thing.
I also wrote
Yep.
an article on it. Yeah, I was the one of the first overseas students who wrote the article for the content detrimental. So I think
Yep,
it's on the
exactly.
Indian Super League, the football league, which I wrote in at that time. So yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupting
No,
you.
no, yeah, that was also just goes to show that, sports law really is so international. And that was
Yeah.
something that we've been seeing now, is that our listeners and the viewers on the website and writers are from all over the world. And so, obviously people hear sports law and they think that it's really fun, but like I keep saying, it's hard to get into. And I think that the podcast and the website has really, allowed us to network with other people in the sports realm, as well as, connect with those people and hear different viewpoints and really just debate various topics and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really think that, we've grown and we're continuing to grow, and next year hopefully is bigger and better than ever. But it's really helped me to, see how the law is applied in the sports context, just through writing articles and through discussing things on the podcast and just discussing things in our group text and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
also just another big thing is just connecting with people. Everything is relationships, and you never know who you're going to meet at a certain point. And so it's important to, just continue to connect with various people, because a few years from now you may, need someone who is an expert in this
Yeah.
specific area of law within sports. And so it's really allowed us to, create sort of a sports law community, which is
Mm-hmm.
a big goal of ours, is just to, get everyone joined together, because it's something that everyone is interested in. And when you, find like-minded individuals,
Mm-hmm.
you usually succeed and, I guess, grow when you are with tons of other people. And so this sense of community that we've really been trying to grow has been a lot of fun. And I think that it's really helped me grow in terms of my knowledge of the sports
Mm-hmm.
law areas, as well as just as a person, and really allowed me to meet tons of interesting people like you, who, I would have never met if it wasn't for the podcast. And so it's
Yeah.
been a lot of fun to see it grow and continue to grow. And I'm very excited to see what happens in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you see, it's really important to having a sports law community, which the business like a sports, which is growing right now rapidly from the last 20 to 30 years. And people like you, me, Dan Luss, there's also Subrajit Chanda, Sean Cottrell, Emily Costanzo. We all are here to grow and having a really good community so that we can have a communication like this, having a podcast or having a global event where we all can come together and discuss more about this, the future of sports law, how it's going to be rapidly changed in the next 10 years. So yeah, this kind of podcast is really help to the people who really want to make their career, and that's why we all are here to having a common goal to promote sports law. That's why we are
Exactly.
doing such kind of thing. That's why we are putting so much effort to give such kind of knowledgeable things that we are doing right now. So that's why I think it's really important to having a sports law community, and having that kind of thing, it's really helped to not only us, also for the people who are very closely looking at whether it's a stakeholders, people who are investing, venture capitalists, businessmen, etc., etc. So yeah, that's why I think really important for us. So so last two questions. I won't take any much more time from you. So the next question would be, what are the next necessary skills which are required to work in the sports industry, especially right now? So go ahead.
Yeah, I would definitely say that you have to be a go-getter.
Mhm.
Nothing is really going to be handed to you, so you have to be willing to, put in the long hours. It's not going to be your typical 9 to 5 job. You may have to
Mm,
work on the weekends a little bit, depending where you are, but it's also just a big relationship building game, I feel
mm,
like, where, you never know who you're going to need to call up and ask a question, or who you may need to partner with on a certain case because they may know more about a topic than you do, or they may have a client that they want to refer to you. But also, I think that you also have to, you know, be confident and listen to your gut, because when you're analyzing a situation, there are so many different ways that it could go. But if you really just sit down and you look at the facts and you're analyzing them and you're listening to what your client wants as well, that's another big thing. Is I think listening is one of the biggest things, because at the end of the
mhm,
day, it's almost like a customer service industry
mhm,
where your clients, that's who you're working for, and you want to make sure that they're satisfied and they are getting what they need. But obviously, lawsuits, if in terms of litigation at least, are a scary
mhm,
thing, and so you need to make sure that your clients trust you and feel secure. And so I think also just the way you approach speaking with people, and to always have a good head on your shoulders and never let anything get to you too much. Don't let your emotions get the best of you, because when they do, that's when things tend to blow up. But so having a steady mind and stay level headed, but also just persistence. Sometimes you may lose emotion, or you may
mhm,
get denied from a trademark registration or something like that. And if you let that one failure bother you, you're not going to grow. And so I think taking those failures and really
mhm,
learning from them and reapplying what you've learned has really helped me, especially as a young attorney. I'm obviously, still failing constantly, but you can't
mhm,
let that derail your progress. You have to just use that as, ammo and fuel to keep going, and
mhm,
just take everything that you learn and reapply it, because there's always going to be a new, different situation. No case is ultimately identical. There's
mhm,
obviously, various aspects or facts that may be similar, but at the end of the day, everything is really a brand new, clean slate. And so I think just being able to take things that you've learned and reapply them in a different way, and listen a lot to your clients and really just be a zealous advocate for them, is one of the major keys to being
mhm.
a lawyer, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you that what you gave such kind of necessary information to the people who really want to work in this industry. So, last question: your advice to the young women lawyers and the law students who want to work in the sports legal industry, because I really want to incline to ask this question, because from the last 30 days in my podcast, 100% other women and the female listeners. So it's a very big achievement for our podcast that women's and law students, especially the female law students, they are very inclined to listen such kind of podcasts where they want to make their career in the sports law industry or the legal industry, and that's why there are so many people, so many young women and the female law student, they messaging me about the LinkedIn how we can make our career in this. So you are the best person right now because you ended up and you are working in the sports legal industry. So please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that there are some things can be lucky, but when you look back, luck comes from hard work. And obviously, as a woman in such a male dominated profession, I would say the sports industry as a whole is just very, very male dominated. And so, when I was doing internships and you're surrounded by a bunch of other successful men and you may or may not be the only female in the room, it's intimidating. But
Mm,
when you look at it, you should always just look at that as more of an opportunity where you can provide, a new point of view on something. And at the end of the day, even if you hear something that, the men are saying and you don't know it, there's nothing wrong with not knowing something, but I think there is something wrong with then not doing anything about it.
mm,
And so obviously, some people may look at us and say, oh, they're just women. They don't know what
mm,
they're talking about. Well, in my head, I'm saying, okay, then underestimate me all you want, but I'll show you that, I can be a force to be reckoned with. And, I'm just going to work that much harder. And so I think that's kind of really fueled me, at least, is believing in myself. I would say that's definitely number one. You're never going to go anywhere if you don't believe in yourself, because at the end of the day, you could be, up against tons of other people for a job opportunity or an interview or something like that. But how are you going to convince someone else to hire you, or someone or a client to want to,
mm,
retain you as their lawyer if you aren't even convinced that you're the best person for the job? And so I think a lot of it is very, I would say, internal, in just
mm,
continuing to tell yourself that you can keep going. You just have to keep pushing on and not let little things, derail you or set you back. I think that if you're dreaming of working in the sports industry like I did, they're going to remain dreams until you actually take action on them. And it's not going to be a super, I guess, what's the word, like super exciting
mm,
way to get there. Sometimes you're going to have to, sit in for hours and do research on the weekends if you don't know something or something of that nature. But I think that as long as you continue working hard and you continue putting in the work, people will start noticing. And I think if you show up fully for yourself and you're consistently, you know, believing in yourself and telling yourself
mm,
that you can do it because you can, sometimes then good things will start coming. And I think all it takes is that one little thing where you really set your mind to something and you saw the end product and you succeeded in it, for you to really get going and tell yourself, okay, if I can do that, why can't I
mm,
do this next big thing? And so it's just all about setting goals. In my opinion, I love setting goals and just reaching them, because I find that it helps me stay motivated and really
mm,
push past things and really just work on reaching those goals, but also to take every single opportunity that's presented to you. Like I was saying, I think you can always learn something. And the people in the industry now, it may be male dominated, so you may be,
mm,
learning a ton from men, which is totally fine. I think there's a place at the table for both sides. And I think a lot of people are noticing that, especially lately. Women are really breaking down the barriers in the sports industry, which is fantastic to see. And I think in the future, people are going to see that women are really passionate and they have a lot of
mm,
grit, and we're willing to, put in the work to succeed. And I think it's just, you just have to be accountable for the life that you want. And so if you want to
mm,
go out and you want to work in the sports industry, go after it and go get it, because nothing's going to be handed to you. And so a lot of it is just not giving up and,
mm,
just seeing the end of the tunnel, because one good thing can happen and then another good thing will happen, as long as you keep going and as long as you keep telling yourself that, you can do it. And if you believe in yourself, you definitely can.
yeah. Yeah, it's really it will be, I think, women, young women lawyers will going to inspire that what you said right now, because it's really important to having a vibrant culture and a very diverse workforce, especially in the sports industry, which is a very male dominated society right now. So yeah, so that's all for today. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for coming on board and taking your time out from your tight schedule. Thank you everyone for came till this end of this podcast. If you really like this episode, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. If you're listening from the Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, or from the Spotify, please follow and like our podcast channel. And I will put the link down below where you can connect with Stephanie or with me. And if you're really inclined to know about the sports law, go and check out the sports lawyer masterclass. So we will meet you in our next episode. Until then, goodbye everyone.